Okay, welcome to Friday. Go ahead and get out your homework. Now, remember, I already gave you the answers for these. Well, here are the answers again if you did not already check, as I asked you to. But give me a good sense of how many you got right or wrong. Or, I'm sorry, how many you got wrong on the Google Forms, please. Answer question one. Okay, big scheme of things. So we've done adding, we've done subtracting now of positive and negative numbers. Those are the most challenging rules. We're going to move on today. Luckily for you, we go to the easy part of the chapter now. So these are the rules that I've never seen a student forget these rules. But adding, subtracting, I will tell you, are the challenging ones. So when we get to test day for the semester final, which I will put a couple of these questions on there, you really need to have a good resource card. All right, so today we're going to move on to multiplication. You would think we do multiplication one day. It's going to take us 2 days. We'll do division and we'll end up, I can't remember what 11.7a is, but we'll finish up. Then we'll do some semester final review that third week, and then that last week there, that'll be the actual semester final. I will have the schedule posted for next week, what the semester final schedule will look like. Basically, you're going to take one test a day. Okay, so here is your homework. Please copy it down. Not a worksheet today. Okay. So we're basically going to move on to the multiplication rules. Now remember, multiplication is also the word product. So it says products of one negative factor. Basically, what's going to happen when we multiply by a negative number? Okay, a negative and a positive. Okay, so today is a very easy day, right? It's not going to be a 30-minute class. This is a pretty simple rule. The explanation of that is important, why this is so. But the actual the technique of what to do is pretty simple. Okay, so let's go back to the basic rules of multiplication. Now, remember, we're moving into, I mean, you're almost into pre-algebra. We're like, 4 weeks away from being in pre-algebra. In pre-algebra, very rarely, I can think of only two occasions where you will actually see this x being used as the symbol for multiplication. Remember, we have other options for multiplications. We can put a dot. We can also use parentheses. Now remember, when we use parentheses, notice there is no space between the 6 and the left parentheses or the open parentheses. That's how you know it's multiplication and not addition and subtraction. You also know it's not addition or subtraction simply because there's not a subtraction symbol or an addition symbol between the 6 and the open parentheses. Also note that I can write multiplication three different ways with parentheses. So here are the ways. The parentheses can go around the second number, they can go around the first number, or they could be around both of them. All three of those versions right there simply mean 6 times 5. Okay. Now today's lesson is going to be a multiplication of a positive times a negative. Well, if I use the dot or the multiplication symbol, it becomes a little bit messy. So generally, not always, but generally, we will not use the x. Occasionally, we will use the dot for multiplication, but most of the time, when we're multiplying positives and negatives, we will use the parentheses form. So this is what multiplication will look like. Now be careful. This does look like 6 minus 5, but it's not. Notice there is no symbol between the 6 and the open parentheses. When there's no symbol, that means multiplication. Okay. Notice we've done the previous 2 lessons where we had adding, or 3 lessons, sorry, where we had adding and subtracting, right? You would have 6 plus negative 5 or 6 minus negative 5, that sort of thing. But in this case, there's no symbol there other than 6 and then an open parentheses. That means multiplication. Also remember from the previous step, there's 3 different ways of using parentheses. This means negative 6 times 5, and this means negative 6 times negative 5. Now, granted, these are 3 different problems here, but they all use parentheses to show you that there's multiplication. You will see all 3 of these from now on. Okay, so you might want to pause it, take a good look, and make sure you understand that none of those 3 in yellow right there actually means addition, subtraction. They all mean multiplication. We okay? All right, so rules for multiplying integers. There ends up being two rules. We'll do one rule today and one rule, let's see, today's Friday, one rule on Monday. Okay, so the first rule will be when you are multiplying a positive times a negative or a negative times a positive. In other words, you're multiplying two numbers with opposite signs or different signs. One's positive and one negative. Well, it turns out, don't panic yet, it turns out that when you multiply a positive times a negative or a negative times a positive, that the answer is negative, right? Kind of weird, right? It's a math class, so I'm not going to say trust me on this. I'm going to explain to you why a positive times a negative is a negative or a negative times a positive is negative. So here's my explanation. We will start with multiplication in its most simplest form, 2 times 3. Well, 2 times. So that's the rule that we're going to write down. Now, I'm going to call this the opposite sign rule. Some people will call it the different sign rule. That's fine as well, too. But the opposite sign, that means a positive times a negative. Please write this down. A positive times a negative or a negative times the positive. So when the signs are different, when the signs are opposite, the answer will always be negative. And literally, that's the rule. Positive times a negative or a negative times a positive is negative. So here's the deal. All you do is multiply the numbers together, and if you have opposite signs, the answer is negative. That's a pretty simple rule to remember. It's just multiply and then choose that the answer is negative when the signs are opposite. How does that look? Well, here's an example right here. 3 times negative 4. So, do we have same or different signs, or same or opposite? Notice we have opposite signs. 3 is positive, the 4 is negative. Can you see that? So to do this math, we simply multiply 3 times 4. 3 times 4 is 12. And since we're multiplying opposite signs, then the answer is negative 12. Okay? Make sense? Let's do another one. Are we multiplying same or different signs here? Well, we're multiplying different signs. A negative 4 times a positive 5. I already know the answer is negative. So therefore, all that's left is to multiply 4 times 5. 4 times 5 is 20, so the answer is negative 20. You're like, well, Mr. C, that looks like minus 20. Wrap your head around. Minus 20 and negative 20 use the same symbology. So yes, the answer is minus 20 or negative 20. Either one is correct. All right. That's literally it. So let's do some of these together. Notice each one of these problems is a positive times a negative. A negative times we're multiplying with opposite signs. Okay? When you're multiplying with opposite signs, the answer is negative. Then you simply do the multiplication. 6 times 3 is 18. So the answer is negative 18. 7 times 7 is 49. But you're multiplying with opposite signs, so the answer is negative 49. One exception. 0 times anything is always 0. You're like, well, wait a minute. Didn't your rule say that a positive times a negative is a negative? Well, just remember, 0 is neither positive nor negative. Okay, 0 does not have a positive or negative value assigned to it. So 0 times anything is always 0. So here's what I need you to do. Since it's that easy, let's do 3 of these. Pause the video. Answer question number 2 on the Google Forms. Did you do it? Easy? All right. Let's see. David, what'd you get for the first one? That's right. Breckton, what'd you get for the middle one? Oh, man, we're doing them good now. Who else? Leoni, what do you got? Last one. Remember, positive times a negative is always negative. Opposite signs, the answer is always negative. Now, be careful. Be very careful. We're not talking about the addition or subtraction rules. We're only talking about the multiplication rules. Right? A lot of different things can happen if you combine those rules together. Like when you're combining addition, subtraction, and multiplication, they can get jumbled in your head. We have different rules depending upon what we're doing. These are not the same as your addition and your subtraction rules. Pretty easy though, right? Are there more complicated ones? Well, I mean, the answer is no, right? However, it may look like it's more complicated. So all they're doing is combining two operations here. So, chapter 1 stuff, we're just going to follow the rules of PEMDAS. The rules for PEMDAS says do what's in parentheses first. So do we have parentheses? Oh, yes, we do. So let's do what's inside the parentheses first. It says 3 times negative 4. Well, let's see. 3 times negative 4, I have opposite signs. The answer is negative. 3 times negative 4 is negative 12. But then I got some more multiplications going on there, right? I've got negative 12 times 2. Do you see where I'm getting that? Negative 12 times 2. Where did I get the negative 12 from? 3 times negative 4. Right? Well, let's see. I'm still dealing with a negative times a positive, so I know the answer is negative. 12 times 2 is 24, so negative 24. Well, that's not that bad. Let's do another one. Do we have parentheses? Does that say 5 minus 3, or does that say 5 times negative 3 times 2? Well, it says the latter, right? It says 5 times the quantity, negative 3 times 2. Well, PEMDAS says we have to do what's inside parentheses first. Negative 3 times 2. That's opposite signs. Negative 3 times 2 is negative 6. That doesn't say 5 minus 6. That says 5 times negative 6. Once again, opposite signs. A positive times a negative. 5 times 6 is 30. Opposite signs, the answer is negative, so negative 30. Yeah? Got it?
That's right. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. That's right. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay, so let's do these together. Here we go. Okay. I got parentheses, so PEMDAS says I got to do what's inside parentheses first. 4 times negative 3 would be opposite signs. That gives me an answer is negative. 4 times negative 3 is negative 12. Negative 12 times positive 2, well, opposite signs again, the answer is negative. We get negative 24. Will the answer always be negative? Well, no, that won't be. Obviously, in the next class we have, we're going to get some positive answers. But today, a positive times a negative or a negative times a positive is always negative. All right, inside parentheses first. Negative 1 times 7 is negative 7. 5 times negative 7, negative 35. Getting the hang of this? All right, inside parentheses first. You're like, well, there's 2 sets of parentheses. Well, just remember that first set of parentheses, 2 times 4, there's something going on there. The second set of parentheses, it's just negative 4. There's nothing to do with the negative 4. But I can do the 2 times 4. I mean, 2 times 4 is 8. And that doesn't say 8 minus 4. That says 8 times negative 4. Remember, there's nothing between the 8 and the open parentheses. Well, opposite signs, 8 times negative 4, right, would be negative, and 8 times 4 is 32, so negative 32. You got it? All right. Go ahead and do these 3 all by yourself and answer the next question on the Google form. How'd you do? Kai, you got the first one? What's the answer? Tell me how you got that answer. Okay, let's see. 6 times negative 5, I agree, is negative 30. Negative 3 times, or negative 30 times 4 is, that's right, negative 120. Okay. All right, Landon Smalls, what do you got? Be careful. What's anything times 0? Well, anything times 0 is 0. So negative 9 times 0 is 0. Well, then it's 0 times 5. What's still 0? So check this out. If all you have is multiplication and you have a 0 involved, the only answer possible you get is 0. 0 is neither positive nor negative. You're like, why is it negative 9 times 0, negative 0? Right? Because 0 is neither positive nor negative. Last one, who wants it? Somebody? Meryl, what do you got? See, Meryl says 1 times 3 is 3. I agree. And 3 times negative 4 is, in fact, negative 12. Good job. Yeah?
Really? No.
I'm not sure why I put that. I'll have to figure that out for next year. Okay. I know why. I was going to say something to the effect of, well, that's really the end of class right there. And then really, okay, you got it. All right, so here's your homework tonight. It's pretty much exactly what we just did there in class. It's the easier. Everyone loves multiplication and division with positive and negative numbers. Most people, right? It's the adding, subtracting that will give you issues until you have a solid command of the material, which, as I said in the last 4 classes, that it will take you a little bit of time. Okay, but definitely panic if you don't get today's class, because today's class was easy. All right. If you do need help, though, please email me. Let me set up a tutoring with you. I can get you to understand this. Okay? All right. So that'll do it for today, and I will see you guys on Monday.
Really? No.
That's it. All right. Yeah, we saw that before.